She's a business mogul, #1, and wellness expert.
How can I help?
And now Chantel Ray and her amazing guests are here to guide you on your wellness journey.
Time to level up.
Welcome to the Waste Away podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. We've got Tim James back. He is the health hero, founder of chemicalfreebody.com. We just can't get enough of him. He just gives us a wealth of information every time. And today we have an exciting episode. We are going to talk about the amazing liver and gallbladder flush. So stay tuned. We all need it. And Tim, welcome.
Hey, Chantel. Thanks for having me back on today. Appreciate it.
So first of all, I've heard so many great stories about this liver and gallbladder flush. First, let's talk about some of the benefits of doing it and then what your favorite one is. Okay,
cool. Well, the first time that I was privy to this information, I was actually at the Hippocrates Health Institute. This is where I started my whole journey when my buddy got cancer and he got chronic lymphocytic leukemia. We went there in an attempt to save his life, and we were both blessed with the information and education on how to detox and heal ourselves with natural foods. And they were doing some pretty cool stuff there, these other therapies too. Well, there was this one gentleman from New Zealand, and he was actually scheduled for a emergency gallbladder surgery to get his gallbladder removed. And he knew about Hippocrates. I don't know if he'd been there before or a friend told him, and he knew they had this gallbladder flush that they did, which was a little bit different than the one that we do, but it's similar now. But basically he, got on a plane from New Zealand, flew to West Palm Beach, Florida, and did this liver gallbladder flush. And, about 7 days later, dropped like 400 stones came out of his gallbladder and his liver. And he didn't have to go get that surgery. Now, how many people today are getting their gallbladders removed? A lot. Right. And the doctors will tell you, oh, don't worry about it. You don't need it. It's like, what? It's like, why is it there in the first place? I had my appendix removed when I was on a vacation, and the doctor's like, oh, it's a useless organ. And now we're finding out that it's the control center for your gut bacteria. Right. So it might be one of the most important little organs in the body. And, that story really got me thinking about it. But it wasn't until, quite a few years later that I finally decided to, do a liver gallbladder flush.
So is that where you learned how to do? Was it the Hippocrates? Did you do it? Isn't it like a 3-week program they have?
Yeah, they have what's called a 3-week life change program. So you go there and, they put you on all the juices and the foods and the waters that are all awesome. And then they have, therapies and pools and hot, cold plunge, and all the pools are cleaned with hydrogen peroxide and ozone. So there's no chlorine at all. And then, they got hyperbaric chambers, they do blood tests on you and all that stuff, but they also do 40 hours worth of education per week. So you're basically going to school. It's an educational school in basically an outdoor setting. It's beautiful. I mean, a lot of the lecture halls are wooden huts with big wide openings, and nature's like birds are chirping and flying around. Sometimes a bird will fly in the thing while you're getting taught. It's really cool. So yeah, that's where I first learned about it.
That's awesome. Okay. So walk us through it. And how often would you say someone should do something like this?
Well, what we do is we follow Andrew Morowitz. It's actually called The Amazing Liver Gallbladder Flush. I think he wrote the book like in 1998, and I think he's passed away, but it's actually pretty simple. So the when you think about it, I just look at our body like a car, right? If the car's plugged up and it's not running right, you got to take it into the shop and you got to flush it out, right? So it's the same thing with our gallbladder and our liver. These bile ducts get stuffed up with these stones, and these stones are housing and toxic chemicals and just nasty stuff, right? And some of these things that have come out of me, I mean, they stink and they smell bad, right? And just think about that. They were in there all the time, just off gassing and in your body and your systems having to deal with it. So also when those stones get in there, they're actually blocking the bile function, and we need bile to the bile should be able to go through the bile ducts very easily and effortlessly and go down there and help you digest your fat. That's what it's there for, right? So what happens is it's really actually pretty simple. You are going to drink, you're going to put malic acid into your body for about 6 days. Now, believe me, the flush is very explicit. You have to do certain things at a certain time and a certain amount if you want it to work. I'm just giving a general overview. So don't try to do it off of what I'm saying here. You actually need to read the manual and follow it to a T if you want this to work and you should also do anything under doctor supervision because, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be, but so I got the manual, I go home, and basically there's a few ways of doing it. You want to get malic acid into your system, and the malic acid is going to soften up the stones. So a lot of people will just get it from drinking, 3 8-ounce glasses of raw apple juice a day. But, if you're dealing with cancer and you're trying to heal, I don't think that's a good idea because you're pouring sugar into your body, right? Me, I eat pretty clean. I did the apple juice thing, but it started giving me acid reflux a little bit. So, but I went through it the first time. Then you can also do tart cherry juice. That's another option. Or you can actually just buy the malic acid crystals in food grade and mix it with water and then just drink it throughout the day, right? That's easy. So that's step one. There are some dietary things too. You want to eat a little cleaner. And then on the 6th day, what'll happen on that night, you're actually at 6 p.m. at night, you're going to drink some Epsom salts in water. And it tastes terrible. I don't like doing that part. But what I always tell people is like, it tastes better than chemo, right? So it's like doing things ahead of time, being smart about it, being your own doctor, being your own body mechanic is smart. So you're at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. You're going to drink this solution with Epsom salts in it. Now, what that does is it dilates the bile ducts, right? Now they're open, right? So you've been drinking the malic acid all week. You've softened up the stones. Now you drink the water solution with the Epsom salts, and you're opening up the bile ducts. And then right before you go to bed at 9:45, and then you go mix up I do it a little ahead of time, but you mix up like either lemon or orange, or you could do lime, or you do grapefruit. You need some type of a citrus. I think it's 6 ounces of citrus. And then you do 4 ounces of like cold pressed olive oil. And then you shake it up really good in a container and emulsify it. And then at 10 o'clock on the dot, you slam it and you lay down as fast as you can. You have everything ready. And you lay on your back with your head and your shoulders propped up a little bit, and you just try to go to sleep, or at least don't move for 20 minutes. And what'll happen is that now all that fat is coming through, and the liver and the gallbladder have been sitting there, and they're like, holy crap, look at all that fat. And they just, the floodgates, and they just dump the bile, just whoosh. So it's a flash flood of bile. Well, now the bile ducts are opened up from the Epsom salts, and the stones have been softened up with the malic acid for a week. Out come the stones, right? So you go to bed, and then you wake up in the morning and you do the Epsom salts again, keep the dilated 8 a.m. You do the Epsom salts again. And then, sometimes some people start at night, but for me, my stones didn't start coming out until the next morning around, between 9 and noon. That's when they started coming out. In fact, the first time I did it, I had like one little stone come out, and I was like, and they come out, in your bathroom when you go number 2. And I was like, I must be really clean because I've been eating all this clean food for 7, 8 years. And I was like, I did a good job. I didn't have all these stones. And then about an hour later, I was like, oh, and I had to run to the bathroom, and like 400 stones came out of me.
Wow.
And I was just like, whoa. And I was like, holy crap. So I scooped a bunch of them up, put them in the deal, and froze them. And I did a podcast on the Conspiracy Farm. It's another show. One of my clients, Pat Miletich, he's a former UFC Hall of Famer and world champ. They had me on, and I said, hey, Pat and Jeffrey, his co-host, I said, look at this. And I showed them my gallstones, and they were like, oh God, oh, that came out of you. Oh my God. They couldn't even believe it. And it's crazy. You can't even believe it's like you're carrying this stuff around.
Hey guys, I really want you to join our intermittent fasting and OMAD Facebook group. We're doing tons of giveaways right now for posting your before and after pictures and just for posting a question in there. We're giving away free protein shakes, some digest aid, all kinds of fun stuff. So please join our intermittent fasting and OMAD Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. So how did you feel? Like, what was the difference? Like, okay, day A, you had all those stones. Day B, you have gotten rid of all of them. Like, explain to us, how did you feel differently?
Well, I don't know if I felt so much like physically, but emotionally, I felt amazing because I knew I'd just done surgery without a knife, and I was increasing my bile flow. But to finish, if you look at the liver, what I was told is like the liver's pretty large, right? So the first time you do a flush, because you asked me earlier, how often do you do it? Well, you do it every month until the stones don't come out. So some people it's 2 months, some people it's 14 months. Depends on how many stones you got in there, right? But so what happens is if you look at the liver, the bottom part of the stones in the liver will fall out. That's what happened to me the first time. Then the ones up in the middle and the top, they just they go down. So the next month you sweep and they just keep going down until they're all out of there. So that's the thought process behind it. But it took me about, I don't know, I think it was like 6 or 7 months of doing it. And then the stones stopped coming out. But, my girlfriend, Rebecca, did it. She's a coach in our program, and she was smart, and she kept all the stones frozen in a jar, and they just kept going up. So she has a whole jar, and every time she did it, they just, there's more and more. And then she's like, okay, this is how many stones came out of me. She still has the jar frozen. So it's really good because it's a visual, and like it's like, you can see it, like it's coming out. It really is amazing and it's very exciting because you're getting all these toxic stones and stuff out of you. Now, one of the recommendations, if you want to be very precautionary, is that you get a colon hydrotherapy session
after
done.
That.
Well, actually the day before, the day of, like that day before you take the Epsom salts at 6:00 at night, you do one that day to make sure the pathway of elimination is cleaned out. And then you do it the next day in the flush, and you go back in the next afternoon and then clean it out, because some of those stones are really, really nasty and toxic, and you want to get them out of there. So that's highly recommended to do a colon hydrotherapy session the day of or the day after. If you don't have access to it, you could do a Kalima board, or you could do an enema. And for us, what we teach all of our coaching students and the people in our private group coaching community is that if you're going to do a liver gallbladder flush, the first thing we do before we even think about doing that is you need to get the pathway of elimination cleaned out first. That's why we put them on our gut detox product. We get them on the greens. We get them drinking lots of water. We do the flax water. We kind of because a lot of people are really plugged up, right? And you don't want to do some liver gallbladder flush or a kidney flush or any type of a flush until the pathway of elimination is cleaned out first. I strongly believe that, because especially on your colon, you have this thing called the hepatic vein, and it runs right back to the liver. So if you're detoxing all toxins out and it goes right back up the hepatic vein into the liver, you're kind of recycling toxins. So if you can just sweep the colon out and keep it clean, then there's less recycling, and you're going to cut your detox symptoms in half. That's the cold, the flu-like symptoms, the being tired, that kind of stuff when you're doing, heavy detoxing and cleansing. So we just recommend that for people when they're doing their liver gallbladder flushes.
Yeah. And I've heard that, if you have any kind of symptoms of fibromyalgia or digestive issues, chronic fatigue, any kind of sore muscles, chronic yeast infections, that these things, doing this flush is amazing. But I also have heard that, it's not, like you said, it's not necessarily a one and done. I mean, you may do this 4 times, 8 times, 10 times before seeing like massive improvement. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that, you're right. It's different for everybody. Again, some people might do it once or twice or 3 times and the stones stop coming out and they're done. Some people might have to do it over a year. It just depends on the environment, what you've been eating your whole life, how your body works, everybody's different. So, and then, but I just don't, the people that we do this with, we look at people from the top of their head down to their toes, and we look at their environment, and we look at everything, the soaps, anything that comes into contact to their skin. So when we have people with severe digestive tract issues, and believe me, I've had a few in my private coaching practice that have had severe digestive tract issues. I mean, we start checking off the boxes. We're doing all this stuff. We got clean them up, the right foods, the acupressure mats, grounding pads, get them an awesome bed, essential oils all over the place, diffusing it. We're doing all these things, flax water, chia seed pudding. We do all the things, all different types of bacteria, probiotics for their gut, everything. Right. And, it's like some people, it's like, what's next? Well, a lot of times the liver gallbladder flush, right? I didn't, it's just something you have to check off the list. Because if you don't have bile flow, I mean, there's some people that they just can't digest fats as well. And that might be giving them kind of like loose stools all the time. Well, maybe your freaking gallbladder and your liver's all plugged up with stones and you just can't get the bile to it that's necessary to digest it well. If they just get the stones out, all of a sudden that fixes it. But it's if you have health issues, this is definitely one thing on the checklist that you got to check it off. You can't just ignore it, because we have not had anybody that has done this that hasn't had at least 200 to 400 stones come out.
Wow.
Nobody. Everybody has hundreds of stones come out of their body.
Wow. Well, this has been amazing. Tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you.
You guys can find me over at chemicalfreebody.com. And you can click the podcast link there and watch the Health Hero show, or it's on all the major platforms, iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. And if anybody wants to get any of our products, I always tell them, because it's confusing, just go to the products tab, click savings bundles, get a savings bundles, and then at checkout, put in waste away and get an additional 5% discount. That way you guys can get a double discount, and we have a double your money back guarantee on all of our products. And if something doesn't work, give us a call and we'll help you make everything right and point you in the right direction, whether it's another one of our products or another company's products, or maybe a certain therapy that you might want to think about doing, like a liver gallbladder flush.
You guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up in just a few. Bye-bye for now.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, it would mean the world to us for you to leave a review on iTunes to get this podcast out to others that may have the same questions that you do. And as always, if you have a question that you want answered, email those to questions@chantelrayway.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.